Hello everyone, welcome to today's episode of Sean's Movie Crusades. My name is Sean Waskrug, and I'm here to review all the latest films in theaters and streaming, as well as anything you guys recommend, whether it be recent films or old school movies. Before we get to today's episode, don't forget to hit that like, share, and subscribe button to the channel, so that way you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos that pop up on YouTube. Now today's video, we're going to be going over the latest romantic comedy to come out this year, and that is Seth Rogen and Charlize Theron's Long Shot. In terms of the movie itself, Seth Rogen, I feel like a lot of people, they see Seth Rogen and they see one thing: stoner, comedian, and the kind of laugh. That's a horrible impression of it. But yes, I feel like that's what a lot of people get when they see Seth Rogen. I mean, obviously, that is his bread and butter. I mean, whether it be, This Is the End, Pineapple Express, trying to think of Sausage Party, stuff like that. And then Charlize Theron, you kind of get more of a drama actor or actress, doing such performances, that won her an Oscar, which was Monster, and other films like that. And then when she does try to do comedy, I mean, she's good at it. It's just that she doesn't do it a whole lot. So it was funny seeing these two kind of come together, and especially a rom-com. Now, the one thing that a lot of people tend to forget about, or not remember, is that Seth Rogen, as goofy-looking and stoner comedian as he is, he does do a pretty good job at romantic comedies overall. I mean, Knocked Up was one of the best rom-coms that came out in quite a few years. And then, of course, Zack and Miri Make a Porno. He does a real good job of actually playing in the rom-com role as a guy who doesn't really look like he should be getting with all these very attractive women, but somehow the story and the chemistry he ends up having with these females work in a way. And so that was kind of what was going into with Long Shot, is will he be able to keep up that rom-com type of performance with the likes of Charlize Theron. The general plot of the film is you have Charlize Theron. She plays Charlotte Field, and she's the Secretary of State, and she is basically on a streamlined path to being one of the frontrunners for the next presidency, as the current president, played by Bob Odenkirk, people know from Better Call Saul. He's not going to go into a re-election term. He's basically going to just be a one-term and done, because he's a former TV actor who wants to make his jump to movies, so he doesn't want to be president after his term is up, so he's going to give his endorsement to Charlotte Field. And so basically in the outcome of that, they run poll numbers on her, and her numbers are all really, really high, except that she's not looked at highly in the humor department. I mean, it's good scores, but they could be better. So she needs to be funnier. And so she basically goes to a banquet, and she sees someone that looks familiar to her, and that is Seth Rogen's character, Fred Flarsky. And basically find out that back when they were younger, Charlotte babysat Fred. And they had a moment together while they were babysitting, and that was basically the last time they saw each other. And so they kind of reconnect here all these years later. You find out that Fred is a kind of a he's a journalist, but he's one of those edgy journalists where he does not care about repercussions. He goes out for the truth, no matter how many, it doesn't matter if it might look bad on him or might look bad on his newspaper or whoever he's working for. He's going to get that story. And after recently quitting his job because his his company that he was working for got bought out by basically an arch rival, not like a rival, but like basically like a Trump-like character or a Richard Murdoch type character. He's now on his own. Charlize Theron then hires him, or Charlotte Fields, then hires Fred to basically be her script writer to add the humor, because he's a very funny guy. And then you kind of have this relationship with them going from there, and that's kind of how the movie is, and that's basically the general plot of Long Shot. What works in Long Shot is most importantly the chemistry between Charlize Theron and Seth Rogen are great. Like I said earlier in the video, that is the one thing that Seth Rogen always has going for him, is he does a fantastic job of creating a believable and likable chemistry with his female counterparts. And he does the exact same thing with Charlize Theron. Both Charlotte and Fred are both likable characters. Fred does get some taken used to compared to how his character starts, because he's very opinionated and one-sided. But once he actually starts working with Charlotte, you start to see some real character kind of come out of Seth Rogen's performance. And those two on screen together, especially when they're alone and they don't have other people kind of like, in the way of their performances, is some of the highlights of the film. Watching these two characters grow in different respects of what they were before they met each other, and them kind of coming together as in a relationship type respect. Charlize Theron, she does a great job in this film. Her comedic timing is awesome, and she really combats Seth Rogen with the comedy. She looks amazing in this movie, and Charlize Theron, outside of Monster, she looks amazing in everything. But she's having to have that prestige look of someone who looks amazing because of who she is in politics. And then you have Seth Rogen, who looks like Seth Rogen. They don't look like they should be together, which is kind of the whole point, which is why it's also called Long Shot. But both Seth Rogen and Charlize Theron do a great job of this performance for both actors and actress. And they're a highlight of the film, as they should be. So their ups and downs, they're getting to know one another. It all feels very natural in a way. So when the potential relationship does start between the two, it comes very natural. It feels natural. Yes, of course, she's way out of Fred's league, but the way they are together and the way they interact with one another, it's plausible and it makes sense that she would generate interest in him, and obviously generate interest in her as well. Some extra co-star characters. You do have her basically her assistants, which is June Diane Raphael. She plays Maggie, and then you also have Ravi Patel. He plays Tom, and then you also have O'Shea Jackson Jr., Ice Cube's son, who plays Seth Rogen's best friend. Like I said, you also have Bob Odenkirk, who plays the president, and then you also have Andy Serkis in makeup, basically playing Parker Wembley, who is like the Richard Murdoch type of character. You also have Alexander Skarsgård, who plays the Prime Minister of Canada, James Stewart, who they are always in the film trying to put him and Charlotte together because they are they're two beautiful people who look beautiful together, and so you kind of have that dilemma in the film as well. Like I said, the humor works, the rom-com aspect of the film works, the cast is really solid all the way throughout, and everything just gels really well together, and the humor, it is a hard R. Some of the humor, now, does it tend to go a little overboard at certain points? Yes, but that doesn't mean it's not still funny. This is definitely not a film to bring children to, especially because of one particular scene. But it's you're gonna laugh throughout it. I was laughing the entire time through this movie. I generally enjoyed myself for most of the film, if not all of it. You do have your slow little parts because of any romantic comedy. It just can't be a one big laugh track the whole way through. But there are some slow moments in there, especially when you add the politics side of it. But it is a political kind of film. There's some kind of on the nose comedy in the film that doesn't necessarily work and could rub some people the wrong way who are very, very political. Me being not someone who is very political, it didn't bother me, but I could see what they were pointing to in certain respects. So if I can see it, then people who are very political are going to see it coming from a mile away. That's what works in the film. Like I said, everyone's chemistries work great. Everyone's everything all around, performance-wise, especially from Charlize and Seth, do a great job. What does not work in the film, it does run the usual rom-com formula that we have seen from all movies prior. That doesn't necessarily mean that it follows it 100% to a T. There are certain characters and there are certain points where you think it's going to go this one way because that's how it goes in rom-coms, where they either don't do that with that particular character or they don't go to that exact moment. But when it comes to the actual story arc of what a romantic comedy is and how romantic comedies go, this does hit all the same downbeats, and it usually hits them at the exact same time it does in every film. You can pretty much set your watch to it. When I was sitting there in the theater, I was like, okay, well, this one part of a rom-com has to hit probably in the next 10 minutes, so that way there's an extra 10 minutes of this one piece, and then we get to the finish. And pretty much, sure enough, it falls right into those pieces. Now, for most people who watch romantic comedies, that's not something that they're going to necessarily notice or point out, where people who follow the structure of film, or critics like myself, can spot coming from a mile away, and that they follow that same formula. I mean, it's a negative, but it's a small negative. The formula works for a reason. That's why rom-coms work. It's just sometimes you just wish you could see a movie kind of break the mold. This one does do a good job of trying to break it, but it still falls into the same formalic beats that a rom-com has. Like I said, some of the romantic comedy, or not romantic comedy, some of the political jokes are very on the nose. Like I said, you have a Rupert Murdoch type character. Bob Odenkirk's president is not Trumpish, but you can kind of see the Donald Trump-ish parts of his character. Not super into it, like, very Trump, but there's parts where you're like, okay, that's something Trump would do. And then the Wembley, because Andy Serkis' character is Parker Wembley, and he has his own news station, and it is very Fox News, very, very, very hard Fox News. It's hard not to see that it's Fox News, and those scenes are pretty cringeworthy in terms of the comedy. The comedy works really, really well, but those scenes do not work at all. They're just very did we have to go there with that kind of comedy? So if there was one bad part, legitimately, it's that. I also am not necessarily really a fan of them putting makeup and basically covering the face of Andy Serkis as Parker Wembley. I don't know what is everyone's deal with hiding Andy Serkis' face. He's not an ugly man. I'm not saying that he's an attractive man, but let the dude act without having to have his face completely covered. The makeup looks atrocious. It's just downright awful looking. I don't know if that's part of the humor for the character or if that's part of the humor for the film, but it just did not work for me. You can see it's Andy Serkis from a mile away. It's almost as bad as when they used to put Mike Myers in a lot of makeup, and it was just like, what's the point of putting Mike Myers in makeup? Just let it be Mike Myers doing the performance. And the same thing goes with here. Just let it be Andy Serkis. If you need him to be older, put some silver or some gray in his hair, and just let Andy perform the scene. You don't have to put a whole bunch of fake old man makeup on him with a big nose and all that stuff. Just let Andy act it out with his natural look. And I think that it would have worked a lot better if they would have just let them do that instead of pastering this awful looking makeup on Andy Serkis throughout the entire film. Other than that, I think that's really the only negatives I really have about it. So overall, outside of those things, like I said, even those things are nitpicky. I quite enjoyed the film long shot overall. I think it's a really solid rom-com. Rom-coms definitely have been it's a raunchy rom-com. But over the last year and a half now, rom-coms have really started to kind of pull themselves back into the game. With last year with Crazy Rich Asians, Set It Up, Love, Simon was coming of age. But those two movies in particular, and then you also have Long Shot this year. You're really starting to see the rom-com genre really start to kick it up a notch, and you're starting to see some of the movies that are coming out actually being really, really good overall. Sleeping with Other People, that was another one that came out a couple years prior. That one kind of flew under the radar for a lot of people, but if anyone who hasn't seen it, Sleeping with Other People with Jason Sudeikis and Alison Brie. Awesome rom-com, raunchy rom-com, and I think a lot of people would love it, so check that out if you guys haven't seen it. But yeah, Long Shot, since that's what the review is about, not Sleeping with Other People. I really liked Long Shot. I definitely would recommend it. I think a lot of people would have a lot of fun with it. Does it have? Oh yeah, that's. I guess that's a dislike. They do have to have one drug scene in the movie or stoner scene in the movie because it's Seth Rogen. So yeah, is that a little like? Can he go one film without having to bring drugs into the act? I would love to see that. But yeah, it's Seth Rogen, and they always have to do that for some reason. But yeah, like I said, Long Shot, strongly recommend it. I think a lot of people are gonna have a lot of fun with it. It's got the romance, it's got the comedy. I think it's a good date movie if you're taking your girl out on a date. I think she'll like the romantic aspect of it, and you guys will both laugh and have a great time. So because of that, rolling into the top movies of 2019, Long Shot is going to come in at the number 3 spot. So going into the top 10 movies of 2019 so far, obviously Avengers Endgame is going to be at number 1. It's going to be at number 1 for the foreseeable future until something comes out and just wows me compared to what that movie did. Number 2 is going to be Us. Number 3 is debuting Long Shot. 4 goes to Shazam. 5 goes to Fighting with My Family. Number 6 goes to How to Train Your Dragon 3, The Hidden World. Number 7 goes to the Lego Movie 2, the second part. I still think that should be called the second piece. Number 8 is Happy Death Day to You. Number 9, The Upside. Number 10, Captain Marvel with Alita Battle Angel dropping out of the top 10. So yeah, that's basically the review. If you guys like the review, go ahead and hit that like button. If you guys feel like this review is worth sharing, go ahead and hit that share button. But most importantly, don't forget to hit that subscription button so that way you guys stay up to date with all the latest videos that pop up on the channel. And next week, we have Detective Pikachu. I am not a Pokemon fan by any means, but these trailers have looked a ton of fun. And of course, with Ryan Reynolds voicing Pikachu, I'm actually really excited to see this movie. So be on the lookout for that coming up. And also, don't forget to check out that Avengers Endgame spoiler chat where I brought a bunch of people. I brought 3 gentlemen on the show where we basically spent 3 hours and like 20 minutes talking Avengers Endgame. I know it's long. It's a very long video. Watch it in parts. There are timestamps just like there are on this video, on that video where we break it up so you guys can watch it in parts. But it's a very good deep dive into Avengers Endgame. So anyone who's a fan of Avengers Endgame and wanted someone to talk to about it, who maybe your friends or your family didn't, dive deeply into it like you wanted to, check out that video. We go over pretty much everything in that film. It's a great watch. I enjoyed the hell out of it. Yes, there are some slight echo issues. I mean, it's not anything that we could tell when we were filming it, so I apologize for that, but it does not make it unwatchable. So go ahead, don't forget to check out that and any other videos you see on the channel. And yeah, we'll be back next week with Detective Pikachu. And until next time, good morning, good afternoon, and good night, Movie Crusaders.